Hello everyone. I'm Chia-Chun Hsieh, a PhD student from Asia University in Taiwan. This I am to talk about my recent research influence of supply chain agility on supply chain resilience and supply chain performance under environmental risks. But due to the time constraint, I can just briefly summarize my whole study. Abstract. In recent years, the frequency of major events such as environmental risks, extreme climate, trade factors, global automotive chip shortages, has increased, affecting the global economy and resulting in a huge impact on the supply chain's vulnerability and the operation of enterprises with significant impact on business operations. This research explores the importance and influence of supply chain agility, supply chain resilience, and supply chain performance under environmental risks in the manufacturing industry, based on the questionnaire of 416 companies in Taiwan's manufacturing supply chain. Hierarchical regression was used for analysis. Supply chain agility significantly affects supply chain resilience, environmental risks significantly affect supply chain agility's ability to supply chain resilience significantly affects supply chain performance, and the relationship between supply chain agility, supply chain resilience, and supply chain performance in the context of supply chain resilience. This research finds out how companies can use supply chain agility and supply chain resilience to increase the ability of supply chain performance when faced with environmental risks in the future. Keywords: environmental risk, supply chain agility, supply chain resilience, supply chain performance. Introduction. Faced with the impact of environmental factors on the supply chain in the world, in the past few years, many continuous events have caused the interruption of the supply chain, such as extreme weather, man-made disasters, politics, financial economy, and infectious diseases and other factors, resulting in the interruption of supply chain and enterprise organization in recent years. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19, PARC, in early 2020. How should companies such as supply chain disrupt their ability to respond to supply chain disruptions? Therefore, research question 1 of this study is RQ1. How does supply chain agility, SCAG, affect supply chain resilience, SCR, and supply chain performance, SCP? Especially to discuss 1. Does supply chain agility enhance enterprise supply chain resilience? 2. Whether there is a significant positive relationship between supply chain resilience and supply chain performance. Enterprises face a more complex and unpredictable environment risk than in the past. How to enhance the enterprise's resilience is an important research question at present. Therefore, research question 2 of this study is RQ21. Does supply chain resilience play an intermediary role between supply chain agility and supply chain performance? 2. Does environment risk adjust the effect of supply chain agility on supply chain resilience and the effect of supply chain resilience on supply chain performance? Theoretical development. Supply chain resilience. To maintain competitiveness and reduce supply chain disruptions, companies are focusing on the development of supply chain resilience to enhance their responsiveness to supply chain disruptions. In this regard, the firm's resilience to supply chain disruption can be considered a dynamic capability that can enhance the firm's performance in times of crisis to facing unpredictable environment. Supply chain agility. Nalo and others emphasize that systems for supply agility emphasize fast configuration and stability. 1. Hoic agility is critical to The success of supply. Lee describes agility as the ability to respond quickly to demand or short-term changes in supply and to smooth out external disruptions. 1. Improve information exchange with customers. 2. Establishing cooperative relationships with suppliers. 3. Having reliable logistics or partners. A company's ability to respond quickly to external changes can improve its resilience and toughness. The readiness of a company to change and the speed of response determines the supply chain agility of a company, which enables it to recover quickly and grow rapidly, and supply chain agility positively affects the supply resilience of a manufacturing company. H1. Supply chain agility will have a positive impact on supply chain resilience. Environmental risk. Christopher and Peck conducted an early study to determine the resilience of supply chains. They classified supply chain risks into 5 categories: process risk, control risk, demand risk, supply risk and environment risk. Some researchers have focused on the relationship between supply chain strategy and external environment. Christopher demand uncertainty and the need for agile supply chain in a less predictable environment, and Sun identified evidence that supply chain strategy is associated with environmental uncertainty, so environmental uncertainty affects supply chain strategy development. H2. Environment risk interferes with supply chain agility to positively affect supply chain resilience. Supply chain performance. Because of the impact on performance under environmental uncertainties. Performance is a widely understood measure by business owners, managers, and researchers, and it is a streamlined and widely accepted measure of corporate welfare. Superior performance is achieved when a company can gain a sustainable competitive advantage by producing quality products or demanding high prices, and performance is defined as the extent to which final customer needs are met and availability and on-time delivery are achieved. H3. Supply chain resilience. Supply chain resilience has a positive impact on supply chain performance. H4. Environment risk interferes with supply chain resilience to harm supply chain performance. H5. Supply chain resilience is the mediating effect between supply chain agility and supply chain performance under environment risk. In this study, we collected relevant literature, analysis, inference, and theoretical framework, designed questionnaires for potential variables, collected 416 valid samples, and conducted data analysis by SPSS to verify the theoretical framework as shown in Figure 1. The relationship between supply chain agility, supply chain resilience, and supply chain performance was examined by the theoretical model in Figure 1. Research methodology. Data collection process. We used data collection and validation methods. We derived hypotheses based on existing theories, and to make theories consistent with common research methods, we used a questionnaire study to survey 416 companies in Taiwan to understand the degree of resistance to environmental risk in Taiwan. We used AMOS 24.0 to build the model, and the SEM structural equation model. The results are shown in Figure 2. H1. The positive effect of supply chain agility on supply chain resilience meets our hypothesis. H3. The positive effect of supply chain resilience on supply chain performance meets our hypothesis. The negative impact of supply chain resilience on supply chain performance under the interference H4 environment risk is in line with our hypothesis. The negative impact of supply chain agility on supply chain resilience under the influence of environment risk interference in the multiplicative variable dimension meets the requirements of our hypothesis. H5 supply chain agility has no significant effect on supply chain performance, which is in line with the hypothesized mediating effect between supply chain agility and supply chain performance. Discussion. In recent years, companies have adjusted their production and manufacturing capabilities and supply chain related capabilities. Supply chain agility enables companies to quickly face sudden changes, enhance information exchanges with customers, establish cooperative relationships with suppliers and reliable partners, and quickly adjust strategies. The relationship between supply chain agility, supply chain resilience, and supply chain performance under the influence of environmental risk, in Mann and Green, 2021. In this study, we explain how environmental risk affects supply chain agility, supply chain, the relationship between resilience and supply chain performance, and in the process of research to understand how companies adjust their strategies to meet different needs and markets. Supply chain agility and supply chain resilience. A company's ability to respond quickly to external changes can improve its resilience and resilience. The company's readiness and speed of response to change determines the company's supply chain agility, enabling it to quickly return to normal and grow rapidly. Supply chain agility will positively affect the supply chain resilience of manufacturing companies, also confirmed in this study. The regression analysis confirms that supply chain agility has a significant positive impact on supply chain resilience and supply chain resilience has a significant positive impact on supply chain performance. Environment risk interferes with supply chain, the relationship between supply chain strategy and external environment. Christopher demand uncertainty and the need for agility supply chain in a less predictable environment, and Son's evidence that supply chain strategy is associated with environmental uncertainty, so the uncertainty of the environment will affect the development of supply chain's strategy, and how to make enterprises avoid the situation of environment risk under the current COVID-19 and European war. In addition to strengthening the management of internal risks, the more unpredictable external environment risk is even more important. In the future, when choosing risk strategies, how should enterprises strengthen supply chain resilience? Appendix, please refer to. Thank you for watching.